Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. How you doing? How you doing? Hope all is well. Today is February 28th, 2025. It's the last day of Black History Month, so I'm going to try to squeeze in another quick little message with these famous, I keep forgetting the name of them, famous African Americans in history deck. Yeah, with this deck. Let's see what we got here today. If I feel so inclined to also pull some tarot, I may, but we'll start with this to begin. Yeah, so let's see what we got. Oh, okay. Booker T. Washington and Louis Armstrong. Cool. All right, so Booker T. Washington, of course, is the educator and author who was an advisor to multiple presidents of the United States and founded Tuskegee University in 1881. He was born in 1856 and died in 1915. Wow. To be an advisor at that time to presidents. Interesting. And founded Tuskegee University. That's cool. 1881. That's a mirror number, 1881. And then we have Louis Armstrong, 1901 to 1971. He lived a pretty full life. That's cool. With his distinctive trumpet style and unique vocals, he became one of the most influential artists in jazz history, for sure. Definitely one of the most recognizable musicians, from the interesting way that he even played the trumpet. His voice definitely was unique and distinct. But the Eight of Clubs is also the Eight of Wands. So that's acceleration or fast movement, advancement. And this is a emphasis on education here, but also definitely a specific interest and emphasis on education. But we could even say that could also be enlightenment, like accelerated enlightenment, understanding, overstanding, to transmute the energy in a more present tense. You know how, like, founded a university such as Tuskegee was revolutionary, but also, maybe there could be some revolutionary schools of thought, that are, the foundations are actually being laid now, whether we realize it or not, just in the evolution of our way of thinking, and as I pointed out, the interesting part of him advising multiple presidents, that's a strange exchange, for that time frame, and his being who he was at that time, a Black man, and barely in post-slavery, having, I guess, 18 years, having lived actually to see slavery and then see the abolition of it, and seeing that transition of a new age and a new era. Interesting. Yep, something deep about that there. But when we think about how slow and steady that transition was during that time, given the different resistances, it's fitting that it would be the Eight of Wands, because we may see that acceleration happen even faster than we would project it could, given the advancement of technology and the transference of information and things of that sort now as opposed to back then. But even beyond that, I don't know, with the Eight of Wands, I'm just seeing like a supernatural acceleration and advancement, that although he was ahead of his time, clearly or definitely unique for his time, there's something that we get to see in our time that's even beyond what we could have imagined or what we would have perceived to be, you know, the natural occurrence of progression, you know. And the president, the part about the president really is sticking out to me here, because I'm feeling like, you know, the leadership as it is now is a big question mark. You know, like, it's quite mystical, the state of affairs, really and truly, because we know what is projected to us through propaganda, through media, through sound bites and news clips, you know, that we see here and there. And most of it, you don't know what to really make of it, whether it's true, false, hyped up, you know, what value it truly holds. But I'm feeling like and I've felt like this for a while, that there still may get to be a submission to the supernatural, you know, and those that are in positions of power at this time, many of them really have no idea how to really transmit that information, those messages, those ideas, and in some cases those warnings, you know. Some of they don't have the ear to hear the temperament or my throat or, you know, the experience really to transmit such high level information, you know. So it's going to come down to, interestingly enough, a submission to conduits of creativity that can and that do have an ear for high knowledge and have a depth of understanding that ultimately will be invaluable to our vitality, individually, but certainly collectively as a nation, first and foremost, and maybe even perhaps globally, you know. So where it may even be through gritted teeth, that some of these so-called leaders are going to have to defer to sacred knowledge or to divine wisdom through the conduction of beings that, you know, are conducive to it or have access to it. Yeah. Not only for preservation of humanity as it is, but certainly for advancement, you know, for advancement. And many of them don't even realize the place that they're even holding, you know, to kind of almost be like transmitters of this knowledge and information, and to activate it in ways that, because of the positions that they hold, only they really and truly can. I can't even imagine what Booker T. Washington must have been whispering to the presidents that he counseled. You know, like, what was he the you know, the expert on race relations? I don't really know. I'm not 100% knowledgeable of. I did watch a short clip on YouTube about his life, but it didn't really get into too much depth about his influence on, you know, the presidential office and on the country in that way. So I have a kind of a surface understanding, but just what I'm gleaning from it, especially being a founder of an institution of education that still exists to this day, you know, he definitely was an advanced man in many ways. especially to have proven to have value to, you know, the head of state. So I think there's something to be said about that there for how it transfers to now. But Louis Armstrong, of course, we know, most of us know, and that card is the 10 of Swords. Ooh, interesting, the 10 of Swords. That's an ending or completion of, could be even betrayal in the entertainment industry. Because we well know at this point in time that although he's still an icon in jazz history, we know while he was living, he probably was getting pennies on the dollar for what he truly was worth, for his talent and his innovation to the art. And that has, you know, that's a common story even still now until this day. I wish I knew more of the backstory of his, you know, his career and his experience, because I know he was in movies and stuff like that too. But I wish I knew more about his experience in the industry. But we can all kind of surmise what that might have been, and it's no coincidence that it's the 10 of Swords, which, you know, like I said, is a culmination and completion, but definitely a treacherous road to get there. Like it's definitely not a walk in the park when you have a 10 of Swords energy. Could have been quite traumatic, you know. Certainly when I see 10 of Swords, I think of betrayal and sabotage. So, you know, we, considering the music industry, the film industry, Hollywood, you know, at that time, even being pigeonholed into certain roles, you know, there only being but so many roles that he could have, you know, as a black man of his stature. His talent preceded him, of course, but how much of a way could have been made for him to portray the true essence of his character without it being like a caricature of it. Because if you think about him in the images that you saw, like, yeah, he kind of his signature was the puffy cheeks, you know, how he played the trumpet, where you're supposed to have your cheeks sunken in to play the trumpet, but his cheeks were always blown out and his eyes was always bucked and big. You know, he was kind of like a caricature of himself in movies and things like that. Not taking anything away from his talent, but I just wonder how much of that was kind of played up for entertainment's sake, maybe even against the true nature of, you know, his identity, or who he would have preferred to present himself as. Yeah. And I mean, hear all that as you will, because like I said, that's a theme that has been continuous throughout the industry. You know, this fabricated identity or exaggerated identity, at least, that in many ways is contradictory to your true nature. And now it's kind of more or less, you know, the end of that, where almost to a fault there is like an expectation for transparency from artists that is kind of like the other end of the scale, where you almost seem to know too much, or are expected to bear all and reveal all of even your private life and persona, for engagement purposes or relatability. So maybe there is a balance that we get to come to in the middle, which then, you know, gives that liberty back to the artist itself to decide how much of yourself you want to really share and expose, without fear of fear of like a detriment to your career. You know what I mean? And even beyond, like when we think about Beyonce, who has tried to kind of cross over from being more private and selective about what she shares to at times trying to be vulnerable, you know, and trying to give you the true B. Sometimes now it's kind of hard to really relate to or believe, because there's been so much time where you didn't really know the woman behind the music really and truly, you know. So you don't even really know if you're getting what's authentic, what's real, or what's, you know what I mean, or is it just another production? So there's something about that. I don't know. Eight of Wands, there's acceleration and productivity and progress and enlightenment and advancement, and perhaps even in entertainment. That's what I'm reading from it all. More liberty and sovereignty, perhaps, in creative expression. Or at least that's what we can look forward to, given that we are in the new moon of Pisces energy. So yesterday I posted a message about the new normal, and, you know, looking forward to dreams coming true. And once upon a time in this vein, there was so much restriction on how those dreams could come to fruition, and through what channels, and by what means, and what return and reward. It was all limited, you know. But now, like, is it really? You know, only as much as you say it is. Ella Fitzgerald, another dynamic voice. Oh my gosh. The most popular female jazz singer in the U.S. for more than a half a century. She is sometimes referred to as Queen of Jazz, and was particularly known for her scat singing. I love it. 1917 to 1996. Yeah, she was like the Beyonce of jazz, and even like kind of popularized. Because I watched her. I watched a movie about her too, and she kind of popularized classic. What was it? She like took like classic theater production, like live show musical pieces, and kind of like it was like her take on popular music, or like pop music in her era, because she took a lot of the songs that kind of were reserved for the stage, or, you know, familiar to just theaters, you know, exclusively, and made it a tune. You know, she picked different songs that inspired her beyond her jazz influence. You know, that was like her second round in her career and in life, that regenerated her career, but also with like an iconic she's iconic in the way of how she did that, which is in what I'm saying. Like, she took music like My Fair Lady, I think, was a song that she sang, or songs from that play, from that musical, and stuff like that, like popular American productions, and some of which, you know, weren't really so like nobody was really checking for them, you know what I mean? Or nobody, you know, if you wanted to go see that play or that production, then you would expect to hear it there. But nobody at that point was really thoughtful enough to put it on wax, you know, and make it like something you could pick up and listen to at any given time outside of the production. And of course, because her voice was so dynamic, you know, she could sing anything and make it popular, really. But that kind of niche that she found for herself gave her career a whole nother lifespan, and really, like I said, like made her an icon, not even just in America, but abroad. So yeah, ooh, my incense just popped. It's never done that before. That's so weird. It's like a big spark. to, I guess, a nod to the stardom, like this again, iconic star power, in line with what I'm saying, like doing your thing, not being confined by the structure of the pillars as we've known it, or the powers that so-called be slash were, peace to Shavi Zane, even within those structures and atop those pillars, dictating what is popular, what is impressive, what is the it factor. You know what I mean? Like, she could have, after her stint in jazz as it was, she could have, you know, really stopped there and would still be just as significant, especially to music overall. But she found a way to almost like reinvent herself and pave her own lane in an interesting way. So that's exactly what I've been talking about here, like this new wave of independence and sovereignty and how you wish to express yourself. And if it could be done back then, you know, of course it was a nuance that was you know, unheard of at that point, but the projection that we sometimes falter under is feeling like everything's been done before, it's been heard before. You know, if you're not recreating something that somebody else has done in your own way, then you don't really have much value to offer. But there's always a way to innovate, you know, especially when it's authentic and organic to that spark, i.e. my incense, that is just natural to you. So I love that. That's awesome. Let's see what else we got. All right, Condoleezza Rice. Okay. Oh, and by the way, the Seven of Pentacles, I'm sorry, the Seven of Spades is the Seven of Swords. So that could be, you know, it could even be in a higher frequency, like almost kind of like finding your niche secretly and cleverly, because, you know, the Seven of Swords it usually has a darker connotation depending on what we're talking about, but it's kind of like finding your way out of the status quo, or out of the confinement, or, you know, the containment of tradition and convention, and kind of sneaking out of it and sneaking off with your own respective you know, I don't know how to say it, like your with your gifts, you know, kind of containing them, preserving them, and transmitting them in a way that is kind of like a thumb, you know, thumb in your nose to the convention as it is, you know, under the radar, but in such a way it's like that it can't be stopped, you know, like it can't, it's so unique to you and so organic that there is really not much of a point of comparison to yield to, first and foremost. And it paves its own road in its own way. So usually in things, when in instances such as that, the industry as it is molds around that type of talent. You know, it almost like this person becomes like a pioneer of maybe even a new genre, like Louis Armstrong, or a new way of doing something that becomes the wave that everyone, you know, kind of gravitates towards, and the powers that were want to find a way to attach to before anything, you know, and monetize usually. But in this case, I'm feeling with the Seven of Swords, it's, you know, maybe perhaps finding a balance where there's a benefit to that engagement, perhaps, maybe not, with the structures that exist. Because you pave your own way, you can kind of dictate much of your direction, or to just be completely separated from it, you know, like to exist beyond it in some way. I feel like there is room for either one to be effective in a positive way, depending on just, you know, how you navigate your sovereignty, you know, especially when you know who you are, because this is the advancement of thought that I was speaking of in the beginning. It's not just so like, it's not like these people didn't know how talented, creative, smart, innovative that they were, but what they may not have known is how how to trump the powers that existed to contain the systems and the control, you know, to, how can I say this, like to monopolize on the outlets, you know, and the mediums of expression. It was less knowledge and understanding of how to still be authentic and navigate those prejudices or pigeonholes, so to speak, if you understand what I'm saying. Like that, it was evolving. Obviously, everything it was a process, and now we stand in a place where we have different privileges on account of the process, and hopefully our children will experience even more. But that's the advancement of understanding and understanding and overstanding, now having the past to reflect upon, knowing, and also our own personal awareness, which is more of the understanding. And I feel like the past is more of the understanding of knowing where things just weren't quite right, or they could have been done differently, or can be done differently now, even if there didn't seem to really be a way to do so back then. You know, to just trump the whole system altogether and do your own thing and still reach the same level of success and notoriety. The understanding, again, is a self-awareness of knowing exactly who you are, how gifted you are, how talented you are, how invaluable the information that you carry, or that the experience that you've obtained is to whomever it could serve. And then the overstanding is seeing the big picture, like I was saying, like how you can still use those systems and those platforms to your advantage, or to just completely move beyond it in some way that's, you know, hasn't been done until now. You know, that's the broadened spectrum of enlightenment that I think I'm talking about with the first card with Booker T, and how that advances creativity, wand energy, individually and collectively, and also opens up the conduciveness for spirit to push that needle even further. You know, when you're more open in a certain way, you're more independent, certainly less confined or limited by this realm, you know, and the projections of limitation that persist. That gives room for spirit to do the supernatural through you, you know. And then of course that catches on like wildfire, Eight of Wands again, so that you become an example in your own right, and somebody else sees, and then they get the spark and they become the example in their own right, and so on and so forth. Where it's no longer just a star over here, a star over there, or this star at this time, and then this one comes up and replaces that one, like a Beyonce, where at one point in time it felt like it could never be another star bigger than Beyonce, you know, or as big, because she was just taking up so much space. And she still does in her own right, but the ideal of that limitation is what's breaking down now. So anyway, Condoleezza Rice, a diplomat and political scientist who served as United States Senator and National Security Advisor. Oh, snap. I don't think I knew that she was a National Security Advisor. Did I know that? I guess I did. I mean, I knew she had a really important job in that cabinet, but I don't think I knew National Security Advisor feels big. And of course, she's still with us. She was born in 1954, another pivotal time in history where she saw a lot of change and transformation occur right before her eyes. And this is the Seven of Wands. So backtracking from the Eight of Wands, the Seven of Wands is, I think that's standing your ground. Yeah, it's protection. Yeah, standing your ground, protecting your energy, which makes a lot of sense. It makes so much sense. National Security Advisor, and this being a Black woman, I've said this before, you know, this wave, here it is again, a new wave of enlightenment, of Black women taking care of themselves. It seems like, you know, it seems, you know, simple, a simple thought, but it's actually quite nuanced for quite a nuance for the collective, for Black women themselves, and even for those that observe it, you know what I mean? Because much of our culture and conditioning has been to take care of everyone else first and ourselves last, if at all, you know. But there's something to be said about that being turned on its head and, you know, transmuted in a sense where we realize, or realizing in waves, that taking care of ourselves first is taking care of everyone else. You know, it actually will be interesting to see how this new wave of thinking transmits, at least nationally, but perhaps even globally, to an overall greater sense of well-being for all. You know, like, it's something to be said about that, and it's something that, you know, it's kind of hard to really articulate. I think it's one thing that we just get to observe the evidence of as it unfolds and advances, because I don't think it's a wave that's going to be going to be what do you call it, like extinguished anytime soon, you know. And partially on account of the fact that Black women are just tired. We've been tired of taking care of everybody else, emotionally, psychologically, physically, mentally, you know, on our jobs, in our homes, in our neighborhoods, within certain movements, as I said, like even the eras that Condoleezza was alive for, you know, a lot of the civil rights and advancement for the culture has been led by women. You know, revolution has been led by women, even women just being in the background, you know, leading from behind. And now we get to do the same thing. Like, I feel like it's the same energy, but what we're leading the charge on now is really self-care. You know, first of all, self-awareness, self-care, and personal advancement, and maybe even sovereignty, you know, being less, even though, you know, like I said, we've been leading a lot more than we've been dependent, contrary to the projections that we have been conditioned by, and that we've agreed with, you know, in a large part. We, what was I gonna say? Like, that, oh, so I was going somewhere about independence, you know, and a reversal of a dependency, even though we've been leading, you know, and there's been a great deal of independence that we almost have had to enact for survival's sake in many ways. The projection was that there was still a dependency there, you know, and I'm not saying that there isn't still a necessity for masculine and feminine energies of any color or creed to be aligned and to have understanding with one another. What I'm saying is that in this time, in this era, in this space, in this dimension, you know, Black people, Black women are just taking more responsibility and accountability for their part in that exchange, you know, and that being their own personal care first and foremost, you know, not deferring to masculine forces to make up the difference per se, you know, any more than they can make themselves whole first and foremost, and then of course add value in any connection or co-creative or procreative experience after that. So like I said, it still pans out to be a better situation overall for everyone. It's just that I think that because there's kind of a void right now in a lot of ways, because the best of Black women, maybe even the best of women overall, are not choosing to self-sacrifice in the ways that they naturally, you know, or at least felt, not maybe not naturally, but at least felt an obligation to do so before, or even, you know, a necessity, again, out of survival to do before. It's like, again, the enlightenment, the advancement of enlightenment, where you're realizing that you don't have to do that. You don't have to bear anybody else's burdens or pressure or weight. You don't have to do anything more for anyone else but yourself, and of course those that you feel a direct responsibility for, i.e. your children, or, you know, things that you've taken responsibility for, you know, your own duties and jobs or whatever, you know, like by your design and by your determination is what I'm getting to. And again, it ends up being to the benefit and ultimately the blessing beyond just the woman herself that recognizes that righteous right. Because just like that spark, yet again, it inspires others to do the same for themselves, like to fill that void for themselves, where Black women have left it gaping open. You know, now you have been empowered to fill that for yourself, and it be much more sustainable at that. And also, shoot, ain't nothing more powerful than a Black woman that's well taken care of from her basic needs on up, and able to reach that pinnacle of self-actualization, like literally like a pyramid type of energy. You know, it becomes a supernatural force all in itself that contributes more to the again, that accelerated, like almost extraterrestrial, if you will, advancement in a human experience, in a human form. Whereas before, I mean, God bless her, you know, in the state of survival that she was in, she was at least able to generate, you know, sustenance. But now it's time to go to the next level, you know, for her, for anyone that she serves, or anything that she deems worthy of her energy, her time, her investment, literally investment of energy, with the wands here, the 7 of Wands, and being very selective and again protective about those investments, because she, whomever she is, if you relate or don't, has the right to be. But remember, this is the inspiration, you know, so it's not exclusive to a Black woman, myself, you, or anyone else that's included. It's the inspiration for humanity, for creation overall, as she, you know, organically is, you know. All right, so let's see. Ooh, one more. Mae Jemison. First Black, oh my God, as I said, supernatural. First Black woman in space when she boarded the Space Shuttle Endeavour in 1992. My God, my God. If that is not a confirmation. I said extraterrestrial, supernatural, like all of that influence it's undeniable. It's been hampered, you know, and of course the energies have been siphoned for a long time and kind of like literally shuttled and dispersed outside of our you know, beyond, you, I don't know how to say it, like without consent You know what I mean? Like the energy of the Black woman has just been disseminated in ways that if she were more self-aware at certain times, holistically, meaning, collectively, because of course some are much more enlightened to the the way of society and the way of the world than others, but collectively that's where the advancement of enlightenment is coming in, because it's not just one or two here or there. It's becoming a wave of movement, um, um, a new normal, a new normal. And here again, she's still with us too. 1956 is when she was born, but imagine just in 1992, that ain't that long ago. All things considered, she was the first Black woman, and she's definitely one of those faces that you would see on the cards in school. Like, she was definitely one of those ones that you would see. Even her actual image, like not such a cartoon image, but like I could see her like holding her helmet and her full astronaut suit right now, like vivid as day, on some of those cards that you would see like in elementary school and middle school and stuff like that. And thank God, I grew up in an era where I could see, because I could have grown up in Condoleezza's era or Ella's era or, whatever, where you didn't see those images and you kind of had to envision yourself in some dynamic space, in some dynamic role, with no real affirmation of that possibility in many ways. I'm sure they did have their own affirmations. Even Ella, there were singers before her, but the innovation and the star power that these all hold, no one existed before May, so who does she look up to? Who was it that she could look at and say, oh, that's possible for me? She had to envision herself in that space. And I guess to a large degree, that's kind of the point of the story. It's like, yeah, we're lucky, many of us of a certain era, to have had even just a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of confirmation and affirmation of the potential of excellence for ourselves. But there's also the piece of it of, envisioning yourself in spaces and places, in positions of success that have yet to be created. That is the innovation, that you get to see yourself in ways that maybe haven't yet, have never existed until you came along. Yeah, for sure. And of course, much thanks and gratitude to those that stood in that gap and paved the way and made the strides that we get to look back to or look up to even now. But what shall we do that is so revolutionary, that there is no true point of comparison, that fills a space or starts a space that gets to continue with those that come behind us. First woman in space, man, that is so amazing. That came out, and that's the 6 of Pentacles. Oh man, and that's perfect, because that's about community involvement and like I see that as like community influence, like each one teach one. There is like this idea of, paying it forward or even passing it down, whichever way it makes sense. It's an exchange, of not just information, of energy, of inspiration, but of literally something tangible to sensationalize, whether it's the art of these folks, the words, the catalogs, the movies, the literature, the images, you know, or what, and even with May, like whatever contribution to discoveries that were made during her time. Wow. Space shuttle, her I didn't even really catch that. She boarded the space shuttle Endeavour. That was the name of the space shuttle. My God. Of whatever it is your endeavor may be. And as I said last time I was reading these cards, like one thing about it is that what they were doing in their prime and during their time, they probably didn't even realize how great of a mark they were truly making. They were just serving their self-interest. Really, that's what it bears down to. It sounds trivial, but that's what it comes down to, like serving their own self-interest, even where they weren't necessarily assured or invited, you know what I mean, or affirmed of their the embrace, you know, to do so. They made their way. And when we can look back at such an inspiration, and it really, with all that we know now, you know, with all the access that we have at our fingertips, and all of the knowledge, the hindsight experience, the reflection, and even our own personal experiences, I feel like that Eight of Wands energy just shaves the learning curve, or even the curve of acceleration, that much more, because we don't have quite the struggles and the challenges to surmount that they did, and yet they were still able to make the marks that they have, that they still do. So it's just like, it really takes the limitations off completely, to start as soon as today on whatever endeavor, you know, sparks your interest, that ignites your flame of passion, and just ride that thing until the wheels fall off, you know, and allow the that ambition and determination allows, again, the supernatural force of the universe to align and co-create with you in a way, again, that just catapults you to places that were just unimaginable before you inhabited them. So these are, I feel like these cards like give like ancestral messages, and like, you know, like, you can do it, you know, like it's like they're cheering us on, looking, those that are living, and, you know, those that have passed on, they're looking upon us like, wow, they've made such strides, and they don't even know it. Like, they don't even know how good they have it, you know, and how far they've come, and how much potential they have to go even farther and further than we could have ever imagined, you know, to just completely break the chains altogether that all of them in some way, shape, or form were confined by, you know, or challenged by, at least, you know, at some point. It's like, we got you. Let us, give us, you know, make yourself, you know, how can I say this? Like, submit yourself as a vessel, like the conduit of energy that would allow such greatness to conduct through you. Because I feel like, in a way, that's the more supernatural message here. It's like, this wave of evolution is not for naught. It's to be an open channel for these advanced expressions of creativity to kind of have a second chance around, you know, and to inhabit a vessel, or inhabit a soul, in a sense, that is far more conducive to conduct brilliance, you know, in the age that we're living in now, with less constraints and less and a lower degree of difficulty than they were at their time. So it's literally like giving ancestors and predecessors an opportunity to resurrect, you know, in a space and time that is far more easeful and enjoyable, like giving them the opportunity to live out that energy in like almost like a, you know, a heaven type of experience. I hope I'm saying that right, because I feel that real strong. You know, I feel that real strong, like they're giving us all that they have acquired, all that they know, but transmitting it through our liberation and our sovereignty, which is why it's so important that we realize how liberated and sovereign we truly are, because that's the more activated that energy can be. You know, that's the more accelerated that co-creative exchange can actually pan out, you know, when there is like a submission and a surrender to that that like a cross dimensional, in some ways, like pollination. Oh wow, that's cool as hell. That's cool as hell. I feel like there's more I could say on that, but I'm gonna leave it there. Just put this, just as sure as that incense sparked, there's a lot of magic in the realm right now, and all you have to do is be open to it. The right kind of magic, of course, you know, like the most brilliant magic is just like a fingertip away, a shift of a mindset away, an open heart space away, an ideal of worthiness and trustworthiness away. The knowing that you are like the perfect candidate, the perfect vessel. Like whatever you do, you literally can channel in energies that have already proven themselves to be the best in the worst of times, and are just kind of like sitting on the bench, like, put me in, coach. You know, let me add value, let me add to your essence in a way that pleases that energy to do so, pleases the divine for that recycling of vitality, and will certainly please whomever is embodying it in real time now. The level of advancement that you may get to see on account of being an open heart and a willing spirit is, again, it's like it's been to be supernatural. It is. And everybody is not able to believe on that level and see things that way, and you know, is still learning to trust themselves, even with themselves. But again, as we continue to jump in the wave and be the wave or initiate waves, it's only a matter before it completely consumes creation overall. Of course, for all those that are interested and available and willing to be so. So get ready to see some really powerful things, to witness some powerful things, like signs and wonders, miracles, and overnight successes, even with through you, you know, nowhere else you can anticipate witnessing that expression of evolution right in the mirror or in your waking life. So congratulations and Godspeed, literally. All right. I'll leave it there. Thanks for listening and watching. Until next time, as always, I leave you with peace.